Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, last year, regular listeners will remember that I interviewed Chris Camacho, and he's the President and CEO at the Greater Phoenix Economic Council, or as it's better known, GPEC. And we talked about how they're making it easier for tech companies to relocate their business to the region. And this week, I'm here in Arizona and investigating how driverless vehicles, cybersecurity, blockchain, wearables and Industry 4.0 are all making up the four pillars of the connected palace here in the region. However, today I want to explore an inspirational tech startup story in the Phoenix area. Infusionsoft have a fantastic reputation, and they've recently announced that they're rebranding the company as Keap. And that name represents the very essence of the grit and passion that small businesses put in each and every day just to keep going, keep serving and keep growing. But with this rebrand comes the launch of a new product, also named Keap, which is the industry's first smart client management software built specifically for businesses in the home, personal and professional service industries. So for 17 years, Infusionsoft has led the market as the pioneer of CRM and marketing automation software for small businesses. So the Keap product launch and company brand is a signal of the company and how it's expanding to serve a whole new market, which sounds incredibly exciting. So I wanted to learn more about the tech startup story behind the company that pioneered this CRM and marketing automation category for small businesses that has gone on today to serve over 200,000 users globally. So I visited their headquarters in Chandler, Arizona, to actually talk one-to-one with Clate Mask, the CEO and co-founder. And Clay is also the author of Conquer the Chaos, How to Grow a Successful Small Business Without Growing Crazy, which is also a New York Times bestseller, which focused on balancing personal and work life, while also, of course, becoming a successful budding entrepreneur. And we also talk about the inspirational tech startup story that just began with what they called an Everest mission and later transformed into a Mars mission to simplify growth for millions of small businesses. And Clayton will also share his highs and lows of building a company and also that thriving tech scene in Phoenix, Arizona. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Phoenix, Arizona so we can talk with Clayton Mask, CEO and co-founder of Keap. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Clay. Thanks for allowing me to drag you away from the show floor for a few moments. But for the people listening all over the world, can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure, you bet. Great to be with you, Neil. So I'm Clate Mask, CEO of Keap, as we've branded today. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And co-founder, been running the business for about 17 years, which is crazy to think about it. But for the first few years, we were just a small little family group, and then we gradually started to catch a vision that we've been living into for the last 12 years or so. We've been doing what we do now. So that's I run as the CEO. I'm involved in setting the vision and building the team and making sure that we can accomplish the mission that we're up to.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the rebranding there, because as we sit down today, Infusionsoft, your former name, announced that it rebranded as a new company called Keap. So can you tell me about the story behind the rebrand and why you're excited about it?
Yeah, you bet. So about 12 years ago, we started off on a mission to revolutionize small business growth. And we created this powerful software. And for 10 years, we were on what we call our Everest mission to take that powerful sales and marketing automation software out to small businesses. And we led the industry in doing that, and that was a ton of fun. And as we got toward the end of that 10 years, we started to set our sights on what was next. And we said, there's a big thing that we want to do. While we had a lot of customers, tens of thousands of customers, we wanted to serve millions. And so we set out on what we call our Mars mission to simplify growth for millions of small businesses worldwide by 2030. And we've got our sights set on serving 5 million customers by 2030. And that required that mission to simplify growth required something a little different. And we started on this mission about 2 years ago. And after we got into it about a year or so, we realized, this is a bigger thing than what we envisioned when we started Infusionsoft. And the software needs to be a little bit different. The way we operate the company needs to be a little bit different. And in order to simplify growth for millions, we're up to a bigger thing. And so as we thought about that simplification and we thought about our purpose, which has never changed, which is to help small businesses succeed, we decided we wanted to come up with a name that would capture that small business success, that essence of small business success, and do it in a really simple way. And so we came up with Keap, and I'll be happy to share with you what the meaning is behind that.
What are the main advantages of Keap's new smart client management software, and also the rebranding? What are the big reasons for doing it, and what excites you?
Yeah. So the reason I get so excited about the brand of Keap is that every small business owner deals with the challenges that a lot of times we don't talk about a lot.
Yeah.
They're the things behind the scenes. They're the pressure, the frustration, the stress that frankly is enough to make you want to quit. And most small business owners deal with this desire to at least to quit, or at least coast. You know what? I just want to get to a place where I can barely keep my nose above water, and that's good enough. And the reality is we want to help them to do much more than that. We want to help them to accomplish their goals and their dreams. But in order to do that, they have to keep at it. They have to keep working. They have to keep going. They have to keep serving their clients. And that tenacity, that grit, that perseverance that is at the heart of small business success is required in small business. If you don't have that, you're not going to make it work. Yeah. And so our message to small businesses is to keep going, to keep serving, to keep growing, and to do the things that are necessary for you to achieve the dreams that you set out on. So that's what Keap is. In a word, it's what's required for small business success. And that is the brand that we stand for. It is small business success. So we're super excited to just lean into that brand, lead it, share that message with small businesses to keep going, keep growing, keep serving, and keep growing.
It's a great message, and I think those words will really resonate with a lot of people listening in their own business as well. And you've been on an incredible journey, but can I just take you back in time and talk about what inspired you to establish this CRM-focused company way back in the day?
Yeah.
And what inspired you to keep going as well?
Yeah, you bet. Well, in terms of the product, what we saw was a need for small businesses to get organized and to follow up better with their clients. When you're in small business, you really are buried with just chaos, and you get overwhelmed. And that's part of what drives you to sometimes want to quit. But the fact is you're not well organized. You drop the ball frequently. And it's not that you're a bad business person. It's that you're trying to manage all of this stuff, and it's spread out in a bunch of different places. And so it's really difficult to manage your clients effectively. We saw that problem many years ago, and we recognized that this small business chaos would kill, if not hamstring, the growth of the business, right? It would just make it really difficult to grow a business. So we got really clear on we wanted to get all of this in one place so that the business owner could manage it more effectively. And so when you get everything centralized and organized in one place, now you've got a fighting shot at being successful.
Yeah.
But when you have it all spread out, it's super tough. So that was really the drive for us. Was we recognized small businesses needed to get their stuff in one place so that they could follow up more effectively and so that they could serve their clients better. Over time, what happened is we really fell in love with the power of automation. And we realized that organization and follow-up are critical for success. But automation is the real game changer. It's the thing that helps you save time, grow sales, feel like you're not just, running 90 miles an hour with your hair on fire all the time, but you actually have a shot at having a little bit of calmness to what you do. Which, by the way, in small business, calm is not exactly the most common way of describing it. But when you put automation in place, now you have the ability to get stuff done without having to do all that manual work. And you have the ability to get things done without doing it yourself. It can actually be done in the background. So from the very beginning, our software was about getting you organized and following up. And then pretty soon it turned into also the power of automation. And in fact, when Scott and I co-wrote our New York Times bestselling book, Conquer the Chaos, we talk about getting organized, following up, and automating. And that was 9 years ago. And here we are today doing the same thing, but doing it in a much easier, more accessible way for small businesses.
So as someone working in technology, what is it that you love about basing your business right here in Phoenix? And can you offer any insights into why the location has actually helped Keap thrive?
Yeah. Well, it's home. So
Yeah.
It was really easy for us to start the business here because it was home. But then over time, as we attracted talented people and folks who were bought into this purpose to help small businesses succeed. It became very natural for us to build the company here. I think in the Phoenix area, there's a lot of small business strength. You've got a lot of, it's a very strong small business community. And so you see a lot of companies that are out to help small businesses. And it became very natural for us to build the company here. So part of it was home, part of it was the attractiveness of the mission and the resources and people who are here that have a passion to help small businesses succeed.
We will have startup founders listening at various stages of their journey. Can you just share how you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but also you decided to go to law school and ended up getting an MBA instead, and then got into $100,000 in debt and finally decided to take the leap and become an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
I think it's a story that will both resonate and inspire so many people listening. So can you share that story? And what was the biggest lesson you learned on that journey?
Yeah, I will tell you the story. So, growing up, my dad was a teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And then when I was a little bit later, she started an interior design business. And so I probably get a little bit of my entrepreneurship from her, and I get my desire to teach from my dad. And as I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, and I would look around and I'd see my friends who were doing really well. Their families were well off, and it seemed like a lot of them, their parents owned a business, mom or dad or both. And so I kind of had a desire to be a business owner when I was young. And then, I got into school and did a bunch of school, and I sort of lost that desire a little bit along the way and thought I'd go to law, thought I would practice law. But just before I finished graduate school, I got into a software company doing business development for them, and I just fell in love with it. I loved the pace, I loved the fun, the energy, and so I got into technology. And then my wife's two younger brothers had started a business doing custom software for small businesses. So they said, "Hey, you should come join us." And I was like, I got way too much student debt. Maybe eventually I will come do the entrepreneurship thing because it still appealed to me, but I didn't think the time was quite right. Well, long story short, I took the bar exam, was getting ready to launch my career in law, and 9/11 happened. And when that happened, law firms weren't hiring, and I found myself getting ready to leave the tech company where I'd been. And one thing led to another, and I started working with my partners here to do small business software. And that was kind of a funny way that it happened. And frankly, I thought, we'll build this up and then sell it. That was kind of my view 17 years ago when we started. I thought I'd do it for a few years. But what happened was I really started to fall in love with the problem that we solve for small businesses, this chaos. Yeah. And the reason I fell in love with it is because I experienced it myself. And so I'll take you into the real depths of the story, which is that about a year in, it was so hard. I was like, this is crazy. I've got all this school. I should go get a real job. All these voices in my head said, what are you doing? You're making no money whatsoever. You're working like crazy. You should go get a real job. And the truth is I wanted to, but I couldn't because I had personal guarantees wrapped up in the business. I was so invested in the business. The only way out was to go forward. And so I kept charging at it. And then the defining thing for me personally was when we started using our automation. We started to use the ability to follow up automatically with prospects, and it was a total game changer for us. The very manual sales and marketing work I had been doing completely changed when we started using the ability to follow up automatically and send people these personalized messages that made sense to them based on the interest that they had expressed. And so I started to realize, hey, we're onto something here. We can do something really amazing. And I was like, okay, I could see this is getting better. We started to sell our software to people, and it was catching on. But at home, it wasn't getting better. Yeah. And so my wife, Charisse, who's super supportive, she's amazing. She just kept saying, look, you're not bringing home any money. You got to go get a job. You got to go do something different. And I kept persuading her to stick with it. It's going to work. I could see it now. It was going to work. Well, about 2.5 years in, one night, after many of the conversations where I'd persuaded her to stick with it, she finally just said, I can't do it anymore. This isn't working. You have to go look for a job tomorrow when you go to work. And she made me promise that I would do it. And it was, I had tried like crazy to persuade her, and I finally realized this time it wasn't going to work. So I said, okay, I will go in and I will look for a job. And I kind of had reasoned that maybe I'd go look for a job for a while, and then I would come back around to Infusionsoft with my partners, because I just knew it was going to be successful by that point. But I went into the office. I started to, sat down just like this, started doing my work and working with leads and customers. And before I knew it, the day was over, and I hadn't done one bit of job searching. And it was time to go home. I started to walk out. I walked out, and I just felt awful because, number one, I hadn't done what I told Teresa I was going to do. But more importantly, I was very afraid of what was going to happen, because she really had given me the ultimatum the night before and said, I just can't do this anymore. By the way, we had 4 kids, $100,000 student debt. Lest I paint my wife, my saintly wife, as anything other than who she actually is. I mean, she had been totally supportive. We were drowning in debt. The creditors were calling like crazy. We truly were on the verge of bankruptcy, and I was in denial. I was like, this is going to work. It's going to work, So as I'm driving home, I'm petrified, and I'm feeling like I might have, made the fatal last mistake. And so I'll never forget that day. I walked into our house, and I was so worried about what she was going to say. She was in the kitchen. I came around the corner, and her back was to me, and she turned around and she said, did you look for a job today? And I said no. And she walked across the kitchen and came over, and she just gave me a huge hug. And she said, just keep going. It's going to be okay. Wow. Just keep going. So that, when we talk about the meaning of keep, we understand it at a very deep level. Yeah. And that story that I share, that's not just my story. You go to any entrepreneur, and they've had a story that's something like that, where it was very dark, and they were like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And the message is really about just don't quit, don't give up, keep going. And so that's my story, and I wish I could say that ever since then it was pure bliss and ease, but that's not the way it is. Every entrepreneur listening knows that there are good times and bad times. But I do believe that it is in our minds that we win the battle. And if we allow ourselves to get taken out by all of the negativity and all of the voices, and sometimes those voices are our best friends and our spouses and ourselves, but if we allow ourselves to get taken out by the voices, then we don't achieve the success we're after. So that's what's at the heart of our brand. My co-founders have the same stories, and all of our employees who have owned their own businesses have those stories. And it's just, it's really critical for us to get that message to the world that small business success requires that you keep at it.
Incredibly powerful story as well, isn't it?
Thanks.
It really is. So another topic that listeners will be able to relate to is actually finding the right balance with your personal and work life. Some say it doesn't exist, of course. You may all agree or may disagree, especially when trying to become successful as a budding entrepreneur. And I love how you tackled this issue directly by writing about a book, which you did mention a few moments ago, Conquer the Chaos, How to Grow a Successful Small Business Without Actually Going Crazy. I mean, can you tell me more about that book and the message that you set out to deliver?
Yeah, you bet. There's 2 parts to the book. By the way, I'm in the process of doing a rewrite, and we may adjust it a little bit, but but the core of the message is exactly the same. And I shared a little bit earlier. The 2 parts are the mindset strategies and the system strategies. And the system strategies are all around what we do with CRM software: get organized, follow up, and automate. The mindset strategies really are about, like I said, winning the game in your mind and learning how to be optimistic, but in a very disciplined way. It's not head in the sand. It's not head in the clouds. It's not all rainbows and unicorns. I mean, small business is really hard. And so you got to face the challenges, but you've got to do that with a lot of grit and optimism. And so we talk about how to do that. We talk about how to find your entrepreneurial independence. That's so important, where you're not trying to follow what everybody else is saying, but you're also not so aloof and arrogant that you don't listen to the important feedback that's necessary. And finding that balance in between being whipped around by what everybody's saying versus being completely closed to what everybody's saying, finding that place is really important. It requires you to calm your ego, calm your fears, and get focused on what matters. So we talk in Conquer the Chaos about these mindset strategies. We talk about system strategies. There's a whole bunch of other little tips and tricks all littered throughout the book to help business owners as they figure out how to be successful. And the subtitle is how to grow a successful small business without going crazy. That's really the trick.
Now, I've travelled over 5,000 miles to try and learn more about how Phoenix is building an exciting and vibrant tech community. And straight away, I've learned how driverless vehicles, wearables, Industry 4.0, cybersecurity and blockchain technology have a huge presence here.
Yeah.
So, what excites you about working here in Phoenix and being surrounded by so many great tech companies?
Yeah, it's really a growing tech community that I love. When we started, I kind of felt like there were very few of us, but it's really started to take off. That's a lot of fun for me. I love seeing the tech ecosystem grow. And I just think you have a lot of entrepreneurial people in Arizona. And I think, as people see the different opportunities, they get excited about that. And where traditionally they might have gone to real estate or healthcare or some of the industries that have done very well in the Phoenix area, I think you're seeing more and more people have a desire and seeing the opportunity to create a big difference and create a big win in technology. So I just love the tech ecosystem. I love what's happening here, and I love what Infusionsoft has done to this point and what Keap will do going forward to make a big win here in Arizona. And
there does seem to be a real community vibe where it's more about helping each other than competing against each other. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's very much so. That's very true. It's quite a collaborative, sharing, generous community.
From everything you've learned on your own personal startup journey, is there any advice that you've learned or something that you wish you had the power to have told yourself 10 years ago?
There's so many things. Let me give 2 points. I think the first one is the power of follow-up is not understood by entrepreneurs. We get so busy, we're wearing so many different hats, we're doing so many different things that we don't realize that those leads and customers that slip through the cracks are the growth of our business. Mm-hmm. And we have to follow up more effectively with prospects and customers. And so I think that's the message that I joke around and I say all the time, because follow-up really is the heart of what our software does. It helps you get organized and then follow up and then automate as much as possible. But follow-up is the key. And I tell people all the time, I hope that when I'm dead and gone on my tombstone, I hope that it says, after he was a great husband and father, I hope it says follow-up works. Because it does. That is my message to the world of entrepreneurs: is follow up more effectively. You can always find ways that you're not following up very well, and it's growth opportunity just there waiting to happen, and yet we entrepreneurs at all stages neglect it. So that's my first message: is follow up. The second thing is I look at entrepreneurs. I look at the good that they do in the world. I just think that what entrepreneurs create, what business owners do in their creation, is a huge service to the world. The problems that they go solve, the things that they accomplish, the services that they offer to their customers. And so the second thing I say is just a word of encouragement. I think a lot of times people can be down on business or talk about it in ways that's just a capitalistic, greed-driven thing. And certainly there has to be a reward for what we do. Yeah. That's good and that's right. It should be that way. And we should be proud of receiving rewards when we do well. One of my friends, Dave Ramsey, talks about these certificates of appreciation we get from customers, and they have presidents' faces on them. They're appreciation from customers. We should appreciate those rewards. But we can't lose sight of the fact that business owners and entrepreneurs are solving important problems, and they're problems that aren't going to get solved in other ways. And so my second point is just a word of encouragement and appreciation. Keep doing what you're doing, to keep going, keep serving your customers, and don't get distracted by the naysayers and the doubters. The people who will cast stones are usually not the ones that have the courage to go do what you're doing as an entrepreneur. And so I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love encouraging that spirit. And that's indeed why we call the name of the company Keap.
So what's next for both yourself and Keap? Is there anything else you can share with me today? Because I appreciate today's a pretty exciting day for you. But looking forward, what's
from
next?
A product standpoint, let's talk about that. What we've done is we've created a product that's smart client management to make it a lot easier for small businesses. The mobile capabilities we've brought to customers, the streamlined way of managing your client relationships, and not dropping the ball. Mm-hmm. That's really what I'm so excited about, is the product work that we're doing. I get to see a demo of the new features our customers are getting every week. in both of our products, by the way, our longtime powerful Infusionsoft product and our new smart client management product called Keap. And both of those products are receiving a lot of attention and resources because we're about helping our customers be more successful and do that in whichever product they're in. So I guess I would just say I'm really excited about the product work we're doing and simplifying growth for millions of small businesses with our two products. And I just, I love the fact that we're putting out new features consistently, and I love getting feedback and comments from customers about what we're doing that's helping them to achieve success in their business.
Well, speaking of that feedback, can you just remind everyone listening of where they can find you guys online, and also maybe reach out and contact a member of your team if we've got any questions about our conversation?
It's really simple. Keap.com. Keap. Keap.com.
Fantastic. Well, I'll add the links to the show notes, including your social channels as well, just so people can find you nice and easily. But more than anything, just a big thank you for spending a few minutes with me today and sharing your story. Thank you, Clay.
Oh, you bet, Neil. Great to be with you. Thanks for spending the time.
I found myself genuinely inspired by Clay's story, especially when he was sharing his story about fearing returning home to his wife when things weren't going so well in those early years. And I'm sure there will be so many startup founders listening that will really be able to relate to that story. But I love how he battled against the odds when he wanted to be an entrepreneur. And it's a real lesson in tenacity and how sheer determination can actually pay off. And I cannot thank Clayton enough for sharing his inspirational tech startup story and that mission to simplify growth for millions of small businesses. And of course for sharing the highs and lows of building a company and that thriving tech scene in Arizona. But over to you listening. Please share your takeaways from Clay's story and our entire conversation by emailing me directly at techblogwriter@outlook.com, or of course catch me on Twitter or Instagram, which is just at Neil C. Hughes. So I'm going to look for another big tech company rocking it in Arizona, and I'll return tomorrow with my latest podcast victim who I've dragged away from the event. But before I go, just a big thank you for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.